Well, it's episode 56. The round one for the NRL is officially over. Dragons fans are buying grand final tickets. Bulldogs fans are accepting their wooden spoon.
How are you, John? Not a great start for my Bulldogs, but well done to the Dragons. They look the goods against the Titans.
At least the Bulldogs aren't coming last.
Yeah, I thought they were heading that way, but
you got to thank the Cowboys and the Dragons. Actually, you got to thank the Cowboys and the Dragons for beating the Titans and the Dolphins and bumping the Bulldogs
absolutely.
down.
Oh, so they're third last, John. So nothing's changed from last year. Then.
Yeah, it is only one round.
Yes.
The Broncos aren't in the 8. The Rabbitohs aren't in the 8. The Panthers aren't in the 8. The Warriors aren't in the 8. The Sharks went over to New Zealand and beat the Warriors. That nobody was giving them that. So round one, nobody knows what's going to happen. Look,
the underdogs. I think it was only 2 out of the 8 favourites won, John.
Yeah.
So a real weekend for the underdogs getting up.
But we can start with the first underdog getting up with the Raiders. Ricky Stewart's Raiders went to Newcastle. And smashed the Knights, basically.
So they got revenge for that finals exit last year.
What a way to get revenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was watching listening to it in the drive home and then got home and watched it. I just couldn't believe what was going on.
Yeah, it was a real surprise. Andrew Johns was scathing of the Knights' defence. Some of his quotes from commentary, he said, "Geez, that is terrible defence and ruck play." Mm-hmm. He's talking about his former team there, obviously. There was a set of 6 where Kalen Ponga went missing, didn't get involved, and then John said, "That was horrible. Someone needs to take control out there." Speaking after the game, he added, "I don't think they built the game well in the first half hour. I think they turned up thinking all they had to do was finesse their way to victory without doing the hard work." And it's hard to disagree with him. The Knights made 7 errors and conceded 4 penalties in a really messy first half.
Yeah, that was awful. The Knights ended up with 15 errors overall. 15. That's not a first grade stat. Like there was a heap of coach killers as well, like coming off the back of the line on the 5th tackle errors. But the Knights had so much possession. Well, they actually ended up with the less amount of possession, but they had so many chances to build on something, and it'd just be like that. Like, oh, Knights are looking good here for a set. 4th tackle, drop ball. Well, now, and I don't think the Raiders looked all that flash. I mean, they had a good completion rate and they weren't making errors and stuff like that. They didn't look all that flash, but yeah, the Knights were just turnstiles, open turnstiles. It was like City Rail had given the Raiders a fair free day. Yeah. Straight through the open turnstiles, man. So I was listening to it on the radio on the way home, and as I said, for the first half, and it sounded awful. Then when I got home and sat down in front of the TV and watched the second half, I went, well, that radio didn't give it justice, just how bad this looks.
It's that over-reliance on Kalen Ponga, isn't it? And he was a bit off the other night, and it really showed in their performance. It's only round one, but as I've said a few times, that's all we have to talk about here. The Raiders have claimed a round 1 victory in 5 of their last 6 seasons, so they're somewhat of a round 1 expert team.
Well, I should have taken that into account on my tips.
So, I don't think you're the only one saying that after the weekend of tipping.
It's pathetic. And yeah, it wasn't an entertaining game to watch. It was actually quite hard to watch.
It was, yeah. I have to say, like in some way, I know there were the Vegas games the weekend before, but in a lot of ways that was sort of the season opener. It was the first game on Australian soil, and I thought the scheduling could have been a bit better. I don't think the Raiders Knights is a Thursday night prime time matchup. I think it's a lot more of a, dare I say it, Saturday 5:30 matchup.
Do you think that had to do with the fact that Knights went on that run and everyone got really into them last year, and so Channel 9 would have thought, oh, that'll be a good one because it's the Knights?
Yeah, and perhaps, and also perhaps because of that epic finals match the two teams played last year, that extra time, 30-28, the Knights winning that elimination final. I think that could have had something to do with it, but certainly this game didn't live up to how good that finals game was last year.
It looked like a trials game. You know, like we talked about it last week, like the trials they're meant to look terrible. And it looked like the Knights and Raiders hadn't come out of trials. Especially, I think it really affected me because of the quality of games in Vegas. You know, we got that split round last weekend, last Sunday. The games were so good. All four teams put on a show, and then Thursday night I get this trash.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was a misstep from the NRL with the scheduling. Sort of almost this sort of post Vegas complacency. It felt like a little bit. I thought that there were a number of games that the Panthers Storm probably could have been the Thursday night game instead. You've really got to hit on the first game of the season the first game in Australia for the season. You've really got to be on the money with your scheduling.
Yeah.
And the Knights Raiders, it misfired.
Yeah, and so that leaves the Knights out of the 8 and the Raiders sitting at 4th, mate. Top 4, bro. Get your final tickets, Raiders fans. Honestly, I have actually seen people say the Dragons are going to make the grand final after one game.
Well done to the Raiders. Credit where it's due. That they got the win. It's especially considering how Newcastle went last year. It's never easy to win in Newcastle, so well done to them, and they get the 2 points.
I did see some complaints from Ricky Stewart, but even if he wins, he complains, so you can't. That's not news. So we can move right along to the Warriors.
Yeah, this game was just incredible. The Sharks trailed 12-0 after 13 minutes, so the Warriors were nearly going at a point a minute at the start of the game. But then they came back and won. Just extraordinary to do that in New Zealand.
I just watched the highlights for this one. Even it was only the 3-minute highlights because I just didn't have any time. But I saw, highlights obviously in order of the game. And I was like, 6, 12, 12, 6. What's going on here? Because, when I checked the score and saw the Sharks had won, and then I saw the highlights, I was like, how did they do that? It wasn't good. It's obviously not good signs from the Warriors, but first round, blah, 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 blah.
There's some interesting possession stats on this one. The Warriors had 70% of the ball in the opening 20 minutes, completed 13 of 14 sets. And at the end of the game, the Sharks only had 47% of the ball and won, winning with 47% against a team that finished in the top 4 last year away from home, and that New Zealand trip obviously is much harder than a lot of other road trips. So well done to the Sharks. I was critical of them going into the season.
Both expected them to miss the 8.
Yeah, and it is a long season. Again, we're not going to jump to conclusions on how a team's going to go after.
Go get your grand final ticket, Sharks fans. Dragons v Sharks.
Well done to Cronulla. That's a great win first up.
Yeah, for sure. And
full credit to them.
My understanding is RTS had a pretty solid game in his first game back, and he's only going to grow from there.
Obviously going to take him a bit of time to readjust, having those 2 seasons in rugby union, played for the All Blacks. He is going to need a period of readjustment. And
20 runs for 173 metres, 67 post-contact metres, 5 tackle breaks, 2 offloads.
5 tackle breaks. Was it 173 run metres? I think you said that.
Yeah.
That's really impressive first up. So
100%.
Certainly plenty of upside there for the Warriors.
Only missed 1 tackles of the 9. He didn't have to do a lot of tackling. He did have a couple of errors, but he didn't have to do a lot of tackling. And this is something that actually, I guess the Sharks highlighted or realised. They went a lot down the Rocco Berry side. And so he had to make 24 tackles. So Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's 9. And when Watini Zalesniak on that side's wing had to make 8 to the other side's wing, only 3 tackles. So the Sharks identified the weak link and went that way, and you better hope that either the Warriors fix that up or other teams are going to start emulating it.
Yeah, and as I say, with only 47% of possession, they really had to maximise those opportunities they had, and they certainly did that.
Yeah.
So well done to them.
Yeah. What was the next game? Yes, the Storm Panthers. This was phenomenal. I watched this whole game. This was edge of your seat stuff.
This was blockbuster popcorn, sit on the couch football.
I didn't want to move. I didn't even want to go to the toilet. Like it was so fast. Just it didn't stop.
Best game of the round.
Yeah, for sure. And the defense, the Panthers looked like they were going to score 50 times. 50 times, I reckon. Nathan Cleary at one point, like, stepped around, ran, darted, angle, everything. And then suddenly there was 10 Storm players around him, tackling him to the ground. It was phenomenal. Like, just the highest quality of football. Absolutely, you can see why Panthers are 3-time premiership winners. And the fact that the Storm kept them to 0, I heard in the commentary it was only the third.
I've got the stat here. Yeah. So the Panthers haven't been held scoreless since their loss to the Storm, coincidentally, in 2022, in round 22. The Panthers were also held scoreless in 2015 in round 13 in a 20-0 loss to the Storm.
The Storm, man.
Incredible sort of symmetry there. Also, it marks the first time in Nathan Cleary's career he's played for the Panthers and the team hasn't managed to score. He debuted in 2016, so after that 2015 game I just mentioned. But he didn't play in that scoreless match in 2022 that I also just mentioned. That was when his dad, the coach, opted to rest a number of players. So that's very interesting. Some meter eaters in this game. Ryan Pappenhausen, the Storm fullback, returned from injury in style. 146 metres, 20 runs. Harry Grant, 44 tackles, great effort in defence. Nick Meaney, he moved to the centres, proved to be a very successful move. 163 run metres. So that's some very impressive numbers there. Sunia Taruva ran for 207 metres for the Panthers, Dylan Edwards for 175, and that incredible run the Storm have had in these round one games. Haven't lost a round one game since 2001. The Bulldogs beat them that time. I'll just throw that one in. I need something to cheer about.
Go the Bulldogs.
So, very, very
that's
good
ridiculous.
Game. First up.
Storm made 339 tackles, Panthers made 343. Like, the game was just so fast. It just kept going and going. And I have to say, like, I don't know who won man of the match, but what's his name? The Panthers, Taylor May. Every time he touched the ball, he looked dangerous. Every time. But the Storm's tackling was just crazy. It seemed like there was two teams on the field. Every single time, there was always like 3 or 4 in the tackle, and the scramble at the goal line, and they are definitely the kind of team that they're willing to give up that infringement in the 10 meters to stop the try, and they did it like multiple times. And their defense was just phenomenal. Now, this game, the one thing I did want to highlight was the short dropout reared its really, really, really ugly head. Ryan Pappenhausen and both of his centres and wingers have obviously spent the whole off-season practicing that crap, and it was terrible. It was awful. I hated it. Everything. That was the one thing sour note about that game for me, was every dropout was short, and it just looked stupid. It really just looks stupid.
Yeah, well, it's this, for every action there's a reaction, isn't there? That's what they really need to think about that when they bring in rule changes. It was like that rule change they brought in where, or the rule change with the 7 tackle set back at the 20. That rule that's basically the Billy Slater and Jared Hayne rule, where teams would just kick over their head and let the ball and be happy to kick the ball dead and give up 20 metres than have Slater or Hayne bringing back a kick return. But the problem with that rule now is that teams are so scared to put in attacking kicks because they don't want to give away the 7 tackle set, to the point where they're even willing to give up possession without really going on the attack on the last tackle. They're happy to just get tackled so that they don't give up the 7 tackle set. So that's happened with that rule. And now, as we saw in that game, John, it seems as though there's going to be a similar, I guess, a similar consequence with this rule.
Yeah, well, there's 7 tackle set one you're exactly right about. So it's that whole 10 meter within the 10 meter line issue. Now, I saw Willie Mason also discussed it on his podcast and said the exact same things that we were talking about. You don't score from within the 10 metres anymore, okay? Like, you just don't. That's not the place you score from. You score from 20 to 40 metres out. So what happens is, on the 5th tackle, you're within the 10 metres, so you just take the tackle because you're not going to score anyway. And if you are getting a dropout, you just kick it short because you're going to defend the goal line anyway. And then what's probably going to happen if you defend the goal line is the team isn't going to kick for an attack, and so you're just going to get a handover anyway. And it's just like now this like rolling thing where all the teams are just going to kick short. It's demented. Like Melbourne got it back a few times. Super annoying every time. That was my most frustrating thing. You can see they have sat at training and practiced it. Ryan Pappenhausen was able to go both ways as well on his dropouts. Melbourne got it back, and even if they didn't, it didn't matter because then Penrith would run out the set and just hand the ball over 2 metres out from the line for a play the ball.
And I think Melbourne are probably the best team in the NRL at exploiting rule changes.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I hated it. It was really like every single time.
And that's a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every single time I saw it, I was just like, "No, demented. Stop it." I know I don't like. One thing I hate more than NRL rule changes is NRL rule changes in the middle of a season. So now we're stuck with it for at least a season, but get rid of it at the end of the season.
And when you think about that 7 tackle rule as well, I mean, wouldn't you rather see teams put in more attacking kicks on the last, trying to come up with scoring plays, than have teams get 7 tackles back from the 20? It's better to have teams go on the attack on the 5th and not give up the 7 tackles than for teams to be scared of putting in the 100%. Attacking kick and in fear of giving up the 7 tackle set.
And you can't. They should stop changing rules based around because we want to get our most exciting players into the game. That's the stupidest reason. Because we want to get Billy Slater and Jared Hayne into the game. Like that's so specific. Yeah. About specific players.
You can't react to individual players.
Yeah, exactly.
If, you know... Yeah, and anyway.
Anyway, on to the Eels and Bulldogs. This was horrifying.
Where do we start here?
Really horrifying. So, Addo-Carr's... We can start with Addo-Carr. That was the most dejected I've ever seen a player, seriously, in the history. He apparently wanted to stay on. Yeah,
well, he got injured early in the game, played on until halftime. So it was a courageous effort from him. The NRL physio, Brian Sweeney, tweeted that he thinks, in better news, Addo-Carr will only be out between 2 to 4 weeks. So that's a lot better than what we'd originally thought. I think if it had been a fracture, obviously, it would have been a longer time on the sidelines, but... I think Phil Gould tweeted that it's a significant soft tissue injury. So, we're looking at about 2 to 4 weeks for Addo-Carr there. So that's some good news. Because if Addo-Carr had have gone for, 12 weeks or so, that'd be obviously that'd be worse than losing the game.
Definitely.
So at least he's not going to be out for too long. But John, I just can't get away from. I'm bringing this up again. I really think that they need to have a rethink of the back line. I really think Stephen Crichton needs to make the move to fullback. He needs to get in the game more. He only had 62 run meters in the centres and 1 tackle break. Tackle breaks are of all the stats we talk about, John. I think tackle breaks are the key statistic.
Yeah.
they're what win you games. They're what set you apart from the opposition. The more tackle breaks you have...
We've mentioned it every game.
Yeah, absolutely. He's on $825,000 a year, 62 run meters and 1 tackle break. I don't think it's enough input for someone on that money. I think if he was at fullback, you might get 10 tackle breaks a game out of him. It was fine for Penrith to play Crichton at centre. They've got Dylan Edwards at fullback. The Bulldogs just don't have that luxury. I think you've got to pick your best 1, 6, 7 and 9 from the players in your squad. And then after you do that, you pick the rest of the team around them. So I think he needs more involvement. He has played fullback before. He's filled in there for Penrith over the course of his 5 seasons there and gained a lot of knowledge off Dylan Edwards. Blake Taaffe made 120 metres at fullback. I think if you put Crichton there, he makes 200 metres.
Yeah, so Blake Taaffe could go onto the wing and replace Addo Carr for the next couple of weeks. Try Stephen Crichton at fullback, and then that gives you a couple of weeks, even as an excuse. If you don't want to let Blake Taaffe down or hurt Blake Taffe's feelings or something like that, you can just go, we're going to move you to the wing because we want to keep you in the game and we don't want to bring in someone else that isn't trained here or whatever. I don't know. Like it's
they have other options as well. I mean, Bronson Xerri is an option to come in at centre. You could bring him in at centre and move Carraz out onto the wing. I just think Blake Taaffe, the problem is he just doesn't have any speed or size. I think what they must have done at the start of the season is they must have sat down and said, right, we want Crichton to play centre, so we need to find someone who can play fullback to allow for that to happen. I just think that's the wrong sort of thinking. I think you need to pick your spine players first because they get their hands on the ball more than anyone else. They have more influence on the result. See, Taaffe, he's got, and we talk about that, the handling errors he's got in his game. He made 1 or 2 errors in that game against Parramatta. He made 4 in that trial game against the Sharks. I just think as well, John, I think Phil Gould, you can see his influence on the team. You can see that I think he's stuck in the 1990s a little bit. In the 90s, he had Brad Fittler. He likes having halves playing at lock. In the 90s, when he coached the Roosters, he had Brad Fittler playing at lock, who's a 5'8". And in this, it's the same at the moment with Jamin Salmon at lock, who's a 5'8". I'm not suggesting that Jamin Salmon's in Brad Fittler's class at all. No, I'm certainly not suggesting that. I'll just make that clear. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's definitely the same sort of philosophy. Gould's he's on $900,000 a year, and you really have to ask why at this point. They're one of the richest clubs in the NRL. Are they happy just not coming last every year? What's the goal here? What are they working towards? Is this going to... And, you know, you might think I'm going off early talking about it after round 1. Well, I don't want to wait until after round 6 for them to make the change. But if they wait till round 6, they might have only won 1 game out of 6 and it'll be too late. That'll be another season gone. They've got to make the change now before another season gets away from them. They've missed the 7 seasons in a row. I don't want it to be 8 in a row, but overwhelmingly it looks like it's going to be 8 in a row.
Yeah, and you look, they had the hardcore season, they had the still discipline in them and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah. That was the whole thing about Cameron Serrato. All those 8 players wanted to leave because he was too hard on them. They made 13 errors. 13. Conceded 7 penalties. Yes, Parramatta also conceded 7 penalties, but coupled with 13 errors, that's 20 times you're gifting something to the opposition team. That's 100%. Plus they had 3 ruck infringements, right? So you go to that 23 times. That's more than once every 4 minutes.
100%.
That's not discipline. That's the absolute opposite of discipline.
It's not good enough at all, and I feel as though I'm worried that you can tell it's Phil Gould who wants Taaffe at fullback. You can tell that it's him. But I'm worried that Phil Gould is going to be more worried about being right than making the change, than going... I don't think he's very good at admitting when he's wrong about something. I think he doubles down on things when he needs to be better at going, right, I might have made a mistake here. It's all right. We'll move Crichton to fullback. But he's going to double down because he's going to want to be proven right. And I feel like if they make the change and move Crichton to fullback, they're going to do it too late in the season for them to have any chance of making the top 8. So that's how it is.
41% possession for the Bulldogs based solely off those errors.
That's one other point to make, isn't it? That they didn't have much ball, but it was their own doing. It was because of their errors. They need to tighten the errors up.
Discipline is, when a club talks about discipline, it's errors and penalties conceded. Bulldogs have the worst discipline in the competition after round 1. So whatever they did in the off-season didn't fix their discipline issues.
Yeah, 100%. I think Gould's got too much influence over Serraldo as well. I think Serraldo needs to be left to run the team. And I don't like how I've got to be honest as well. I don't like how Serraldo speaks in press conferences. He doesn't sound very enthusiastic. I want to see more energy from the coach as well. He just seems very, and I know they didn't play well, but it's almost like he comes across as being apathetic or something. Just not enough energy, not enough positive vibes out of the coach. That's just my observations. I just think, you know, if you have... The potential's there in this roster.
Yeah.
If you've got Kickow, Crichton... If you bring Cherry in, I think Cherry needs to come in and add O'Carr on that left side. And if you got Crichton out the back, coming in from fullback, I think there's a lot more potency to that than Blake Taff. If Blake Taff's out the back, I know I sound harsh on Blake Taff, but you want to see what's best for your team. It's not Blake Taff's fault. He's been signed by Phil Gould to come in and do a job. He's doing the best that he can, but I just don't think he's up to it. Cherry scored a try in that trial against the Storm. He scored a try in the New South Wales Cup on the weekend. There's real potential with Cherry there.
Yeah, I think
he's got a point to prove after his 4-year drugs ban. I want to see him come in.
So none of the Bulldogs forwards made over 100 metres. And so that was one of the things that we highlighted and everyone highlighted is the Bulldogs forwards are a massive risk with their youth, their inexperience. Even Kickow only made 40 metres.
Yeah, that's not good enough.
So they got dominated. I've got to eat a humble pie for Bryce Cartwright. Man of the match. 6 Dalium
You're
points.
not the only one who's eating humble pie this week.
Two tries. I think 0 errors. All of his stats are ridiculous. Where is he? Yeah, 2 tries. Is it 114 run meters? Two line breaks, 4 tackle breaks. Okay. I can see why they re-signed him.
You're not the only one this week.
0 errors. And one great kick.
I know we need to move on. I know you're a bit tight for time today, but there was one other point I just wanted to make. Just listening to the commentary at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, Greg Alexander kept saying, the Bulldogs needed more shape in their attack. He kept saying, where's the shape? Where's the shape? I don't know what he was talking about. You need to be more specific than that in commentary. Just saying they need more shape, that's not specific enough. As a fan watching it, I was confused by that. I needed more information than that from the commentator, to be totally honest.
That's the expectation that the people watching are NRL Rugby League experts. I actually never really. I just pretend to say that. That's one of my.
You just need more. You just need more specific. Like what shape? What do they need to look like?
That's actually one of the common things that they say, right? Look at that shape and stuff like that. And
be more specific.
That's one of the things I do to be funny, to make fun of them. In jiu-jitsu, we have the same thing, right? Because when someone's cornering you, or in MMA and stuff, when someone's cornering you, you want them to tell you exactly what to do, right? So it's like, if you're on the bottom, you say something like, okay, your left leg is open, so you can release your left leg, like this kind of thing. Or you see really bad corners, right, and commentators who say, you need to sweep. It's like, I know that. I don't know how. I'm stuck on the bottom, okay? Can you freaking tell me? And that's how I do that. Like, so when someone says, coach me, John, I need help, I go like, sweep. win, submit. And that's what that shape thing is for me. When people were like, man, we were watching it and we were like, get to be boring. We're like, you know what they need? They need more shape. Shape. They've got to get some shape in them.
What did you say?
I don't know, man.
Be
Just
more specific.
watch the shape.
They need to give more information to us.
Yeah,
as
it
viewers.
should be. So yeah, that's the thing I mock because to me it's one of those things that people say when they don't know how to actually commentate.
Yeah, because I was working. I was in an office. I was working when it was on, watching the game, and everybody around me was saying the same thing. What's he talking about? That's not specific enough.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, Bryce Cartwright. I'll do a post later on my own personal social media, possibly. On to the greatest match of the round, actually. The Dragons fully dominated the Titans. Mm-hmm. I, of course, again, edge of my seat stuff. First half, right, it was very interesting because if you remember way back into the... Now, look, okay, let me just preempt this by saying I'm not saying the Dragons are going to... I'm not rushing out to buy premiership tickets. But if you remember in 2010, in 2009, actually, when St. Wayne took over, the Dragons were... The entire thing was based on defence, then Jamie Soward kicking long, and then them defending and forcing an error. Their defence was, like, the attitude in defence was amazing, the scramble, everything like that. So I was watching this first half, and the Dragons scored a try early. Like, Tyrell Sloan, mate, he's gotten over that Charity Shield form, I'm telling you.
Three tries?
Yeah, scored a try in the second minute, okay, and then Zach Lomax kicked the conversion. It was 6-0. It was 6-0 right up until the 34th minute, and the Tigers had, like, so much ball, and the Dragons were making quite a few errors and giving up possession, but they were, like, had that attitude of, don't worry, we'll back ourselves in defence, and they did. They backed themselves in defence. Now, the Titans scored a late try in the 34th minute, and, of course, me as a long-suffering Dragons fan went, here we go. Like, here we go. It's over now. It's gonna.
That was that try you're talking about. That was Khan Pereira's 21st try in 24 games. That's one upside for the.
That was a stat that came out, right? The commentator said that, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. But still, here we go. And then they came out, and the Titans looked tired, so tired, and the Dragons looked so fresh. And when they came out for the second half, it was quite weird because the Dragons had a lot of ball, like it was around even the ball, but the Dragons had, I think, made more tackles, defended their line more, but the Titans looked tired. They were like blowing after the break, and then the Dragons were able to just take advantage of that. Kyle Flanagan, I reckon, actually did. That was the best game he's ever had in his career.
Yeah, I'll eat humble pie over him. Played really well. I'd take back what I said about him. I'll tell you what, the form of Kyle Flanagan in that game and the form of Raymond Fatala Mariner.
Yes, that was the other guy.
So Flanagan scored a try. Fatala Mariner had a try assist. What is the form about those two under new coach Shane Flanagan? What does that say about the Bulldogs as well?
Yeah, so Kyle Flanagan, I think, is one of those players that needs, obviously, I mean, again, for round one, but...
That's all we have to talk about, though.
That needs someone like Ben Hunt to take control. And Kyle Flanagan can just, they have the common saying, play his game. And he played his game. He ran well, he tackled well, he kicked well, he passed well, he did everything well. Like, he wasn't exceptional, he's not 6 points in the Dally M count, like Bryce Cartwright, but leading the Dally M ladder after one round. But he played like it was beautiful. And, Fatala Mariner was never a bad player, to be honest. Like, that was the thing at the Bulldogs. He was one of their best players. He was their club captain. He just didn't buy into the discipline stuff, the hard work. But he's gone to... But it speaks to the Bulldogs in that he's gone to the Dragons with Shane Flanagan, who is a noted... hard work kind of coach, no nonsense coach, and bought into it. I haven't seen Ben Hunt happier.
They look happy, don't they? They look happy. You can feel it. You can sense it.
Sookie whingy Ben Hunt who wanted to leave all year.
All of a sudden, it doesn't look like he's going anywhere.
He was saying when Kyle Flanagan scored that try, first person jumping onto his back, massive smile on his face, Ben Hunt. You know, like there was that Ben Hunt drop ball off a kickoff. That was, poor guy.
Reminder of the 2015 grand final.
Oh, God, no. Oh, what have you done?
On this occasion, it was just a glitch.
Dragons defended it. Dragons defended it out. You know, Zach Lomax looked really good on the wing. Now, there's all rumblings about they're getting rid of Zach Lomax now because he's not happy. He doesn't want to play wing. He's on way too much money to play wing. But he looked really good, and he looked really happy. That's it. Even though he wants to leave, not because he's unhappy at the Dragons. He wants to leave because he's unhappy with his position, and that comes down to he's a gun centre that wanted to move to fullback, right, to earn more money. You don't go from centre to the wing to earn more money. You know, so that's totally understandable. Any other club, I don't want to lose him. I mean, sometimes I think he's a bit of a knob, but I don't want to lose him. But the Dragon, there was nothing bad about him, to be honest. Even though they dropped a bit of ball, did some silly things.
Nothing bad about the Dragons. I can't say the same for the Titans. 19 missed tackles, 19 ineffective tackles as well. Not great from them. Of course, they were without Kieran Foran with that hamstring injury. That hurt them a bit, although his inclusion wouldn't have made up the difference. There's no way. 6 line breaks to 1 for the Dragons. That's a key statistic, I would have thought. Terrell Sloan, as we said, 3 tries, 2 line breaks as well. Impressive first up display from the Dragons.
And see, the Dragons had 14 errors and conceded 5 penalties to the Titans 10-3. So that's when the Dragons gave away the ball a lot more, gave their opposition much more field position. But with the defence, the attitude and the happiness in defence was
absolutely.
Can't wait for next week. Then yesterday's match, the Dolphins versus Cowboys. That was, to me again, that was unwatchable. Cowboys were fire. They were so good, but the Dolphins were. This was like a repeat of Thursday to me, you know. Like I was trying to watch it. UFC was on at the same time, and I was trying to watch it, and I muted it and I minimized it, and it went all UFC. Like
that's the thing you do. I guess before the start of the weekend, you have a look at the games that you're really interested in, and I've got to be honest, this one was one of the ones at the bottom of the list. But you could see it was the first game for the Cowboys under their new attack coach, James Maloney. You can really see the influence that he's had on them in a short space of time. James Maloney's a winner, of course. Went to the Roosters. They won a premiership in his first season there. Went to Cronulla. They won a premiership. This guy's a born winner, and you can see the influence he's had over the Cowboys attack already, and we're only one game into the new season.
Because that was, while I was watching it on my peripheral, all of the players looked like James Maloney, to be honest, like the way they ran and passed the ball. Because James Maloney, one of the things he always had was a quick sideways run, and all of them looked the same. Like it was great to watch. I mean, it was high flair attacking football, but man, like the Dolphins looked awful. I mean,
the Cowboys had over 2,000 run meters. The Dolphins only had 1,485. So that's a huge difference there. The Cowboys have now won 5 of their last 6 at Suncorp Stadium as well.
What's his name? Tom Flegler scored a try. But yeah, other than that, really, the game was dull to me. I much preferred to watch the UFC, which was more exciting.
I mean, it's just not realistic to think that you're going to watch all of every game, are you? That's a lot of football to watch, and you're always going to prioritise as a viewer. Take
a quick look next week, for example. I'll watch Thursday's game. I'll watch Friday's 2 games. Saturday, I'm probably going to skip the Raiders versus West Tigers. So that's the early Saturday game that's really hard for me to watch. If it's the Dragons, I'll watch it on delay. And then you have the Cowboys Knights. I'm really interested in that to see if the Knights can come back. Storm Warriors, going to be a phenomenal game, unfortunately, in Melbourne for the Warriors. Seagulls Roosters will be good, and Dolphins Dragons will be good. If there's nothing else on and there's nothing doing, I would watch all of those games. And so that's how I am with rugby league. If there's nothing else on, there's nothing doing. I'll watch all of those games. But when there's a UFC card on and this terrible Cowboys versus Dolphins game, I'm unable to watch that shite.
You're always going to prioritise as a viewer.
And so that's it for the round. Oh, the West Tigers did manage to beat the bye. And so it puts them at 9th.
Was it a close game?
it was 0-0 actually, but they just gave the Tigers the 2 points out of sympathy. Basically, from the expert tips, just a quick update there.
Oh no!
None of us got the Knights. None of us got the Warriors. Only me and Julie Snook tipped the Storm. We all tipped the Parramatta. None of us got the Dragons, and Julie, Dan, and Mitchell Pearce all tipped the Cowboys. So, in our expert tip competition, Julie Snook is winning with 2 for this round. So well done, Julie. Yeah, all the rest of us are pathetic losers. At least in the experts, we don't have to pick the margin. We are still facing some issues with the ladder, which will be resolved today. For the winner of the weekly prize. Last week, it was Mitch Lucas who won. He was very happy. So we'll announce the winner either later on today or tomorrow. On to the NRL news and it's not a gift that keeps on giving. The Spencer Leniu, Ezra Mam saga continues. I mentioned this the other day. And I got the stuff from the TikToks, which is always a little bit wrong, and that's why I said allegedly. Who knows if it's true? So the thing that I heard on the TikToks, actually no, it was from somebody in the game. Actually, was that Spencer Leniu had previously been targeted with a racist remark by a Broncos player. But what I heard was that it was in the when he was at Penrith. In the grand final, and that's what provoked Spencer Leniu to do the same kind of thing. And now he's said, yeah, well, I know I'm guilty, and he's admitted guilt. He basically admitted guilt straight after our podcast the other day.
Yeah.
Walk out and he's admitted guilt.
Yeah. What can you do about that? Yeah. Not much.
But now he's basically said I was called something naughty as well, but he's refusing to say who did it.
Yeah, apparently he's confirmed privately that they said something to him, and he's reacted to it, or so he says, in a terrible way, obviously. So Phil Rothfield told the Sky Sports Radio's Big Sports Breakfast on Sunday he expects Leniu to get a 4 to 6 week suspension. The hearing's actually going to be on Monday night, John.
Tonight?
There were reports around last week that it was going to be Tuesday night. I'm not sure whether the fact that he's pleaded guilty early has brought it forward to Monday night. I'm not sure about that. But it is going to be Monday night, the judiciary hearing. So we'll point out that we are recording this on Monday morning and the hearing is on Monday night. So we do not have the outcome of that hearing. Yep. So you'll have to just bear with us on that one. Channel 9 journalist Danny Widler stated in his Sydney Morning Herald column, there is no, and I quote, there's no question his comment wasn't made without other comments coming his way, but he won't go down that path. I think this is just excuses, to be honest. Things get said all the time out on the field. Obviously, what was said to him wasn't as bad as what he said back, so I don't think that he can go down this path of making that excuse.
Can't counter bad speech with more bad speech. You counter bad speech with good speech. If Spencer Leniu, his whole assertion is I don't dob, I'm not a snitch. And apparently there's a little bit around the confrontation in the hotel room. There was a little bit around that. And one of the players, I'm not 100% sure which one, said, do you want to take care of it right here, to the other one? So whether it was, one of the Broncos players or Spencer Leniu himself who said, but basically it was like, do you want to have a fist fight right now? Before the NRL, I think it was the Roosters media manager got involved and separated them.
The talk is he's looking at a 4 to 6 week ban, but we will get confirmation of that tonight.
Meanwhile, he did offer to fly to Brisbane on his own dime and apologise in person to Ezra Mam, and Ezra Mam has...
Ezra Mam's not accepting his peace offering. I don't blame Ezra Mam. I think there's too much... no worries, mate. It's all good. We'll have peace talks. There's too much of that goes on now. Ezra Mam's gone, no, I don't like what you've said, and I'm not sitting down with you and reconciling over it. That's it.
Yeah,
I actually like that response from Ezra Mam. He's gone, no, I can't cop what you've said. We're not having peace talks.
There's literally zero reason for it. They're never going to appear in the same team together. One of them plays for Australia. The other one is Samoa, I want to say. Spencer Leniu.
He was born in New Zealand. Yeah, he born in Auckland, New Zealand, but has played for Samoa in 2022.
So he might qualify for New Zealand. He's not going to... Ezra Mam is a Queenslander. If Spencer Leniu went the other way around, I don't think he qualifies. He'd be a New South Welshman is what I read. Unless they were going to the same team, both signed new agreements and going to the same team, there's no reason for Ezra Mam to go, yeah, man, let's have a...
Yeah, great point. And obviously... this is a terrible thing that has happened. But all I will say is that next time these two play against each other, there are going to be a lot of eyeballs on that game.
When is their next match?
I know it's a terrible act that's been committed by Leniu. I guess the Roosters, I believe, do play the Broncos again this season.
Yeah, in round 9.
But so it depends how long the suspension is, doesn't it? He might be out suspended, Leniu, from that game. He might not, depending on how long it is.
Yeah, so if he gets 8 games, then it's done. He won't be.
So that's an interesting side note to this is, will Leniu's suspension keep him out of that next game against the Broncos? Tell you what, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on that game. Yeah. No question about it.
And meanwhile, Brad Fittler agrees with us that Latrell Mitchell shouldn't be allowed to be making comments. I think it's a bit rich for Brad Fittler to, I pointed out last time, it's not just Latrell Mitchell. Why would it, if they're going to sanction... Well, Brad Fittler said that the NRL should sanction Latrell Mitchell for his comments, I read the quote this morning.
Yeah, I think the main discussion was about Latrell, but as you said, there are on the show, but there are obviously other players here. So these were his quotes. I've got Fittler's quotes in front of me. He says, "Why doesn't everyone ring Ezra? Why does everything have to be done on social media? The NRL has rules where you can't come out and make comments about situations that are going to judiciary, so they should be in trouble. If you want to support Ezra, ring him up, go and see him. That's how you support someone." I'll just point out that article I was reading about this did have in the headline that he was talking specifically about Latrell.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not in his quotes, but okay, so that's who he was talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
It was
to be fair to him, I think he is talking more broadly about other players as well.
It's 100% true. They should sanction Latrell Mitchell and Nico Hines and whoever else said anything because you're not allowed to comment.
And Paul Gallen said, I quote, "This hysteria around this has been crazy."
Gal, you don't understand.
I'm not going along with that. This was a racist comment made in a country that's highly sensitive towards racism in 2024 when that's just not acceptable. So I'm not going along with that. I think if Leniu cops a long ban, well, too bad. You can't make those comments anymore. This is 2024. As I said, a country that's probably one of the most sensitive countries towards racism in the world. If you don't want to get a long suspension, well, don't go making comments like that. I don't agree with Paul Gallen.
No, Paul Gallen is wrong because that's one of those things where he doesn't have skin in the game. He doesn't understand. I don't understand. It's a ridiculously stupid comment to make. I can see the effect it has. I can see the effect. And therefore, I have no comment on the effect because I don't know. But I can see the effect it has on Ezra Mam and. Yeah,
and you are allowed to think two things. You are allowed to think that, well, players who speak too early about these things publicly should be sanctioned for going off early on judiciary notice. You're allowed to think that and think that, well, no, the hysteria hasn't been too much.
Exactly.
It was a ridiculous comment from Leniu, and I completely disagree with Paul Gallen.
Absolutely. Well, actually, maybe we should just jump ahead on the rundown to the Wayne Bennett, because that's still the thing before we move on to our...
The only thing was I had the chat... Sorry, I'm just checking where I'm at. The only thing was I had the Anthony Mundine, Latrell as the honestly guys.
Yeah, so if we do Wayne Bennett first.
Okay, sure, yeah.
And then we can move on to that, because that'll what is it called? Ice the cake. So Wayne Bennett has hit out over the drama queens over the racism saga. Again, Wayne Bennett is like Paul Gallen. He doesn't understand. I don't know. Like I said, I don't understand, but that's why I'm not going to make a comment like that, because I don't understand.
Yeah, the quote from Bennett was, "The game doesn't have to take a strong stand on this. The game has always taken a stand on racism. It's bullshit to think otherwise." Excuse me. Even if the game's always taken a stand on racism, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't take a strong stand on this. What a bizarre comment from a dinosaur.
It's just nonsense. Like, he's the same as Paul Gallen. He doesn't understand, and he needs to, like, because you don't understand. If you don't agree, you keep your mouth shut. Any agreement is, I defer to the expert. In this case, Ezra Mam. I defer to the expert and agree with him, because I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand. It's not my area of expertise, if you want to say, but. Wayne Bennett should just support the player that is upset, and Paul Gallen should, and everyone should, if they don't have skin in the game, which we can now move into our, honestly, guys, it's just our opinion, because Latrell Mitchell and Anthony Mundine have been going back and forth. Now, both of these guys have skin in the game. Both of these guys have experienced racism, so it's time for, honestly, guys, just our opinion. Mm-hmm. We're going to give our opinion on the feud between Latrell Mitchell and Anthony Mundine over the Leniu Mam racism scandal.
Yes.
So obviously Anthony Mundine's come out. I think he went first, right? Yeah, he went first.
So the line from Anthony Mundine, of course, we're aware that of Latrell Mitchell's been very vocal on this subject ever since it came to light. The key quote from Anthony Mundine about Latrell Mitchell, he says, and I quote, "Trell, please, just focus on your footy. You've been underperforming far too long and been lucky to have Cody by your side to hold your head." I've got two separate views on this comment. You've been underperforming far too long. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean, all right, he's clearly South's best weapon in attack, but as we said, he had the 2 try assists and scored that try in the first game, but he also made the mistakes. He threw that intercept pass by Jason Saab, made that mistake before the Luke Brooks try, and missed those 3 goals, which were fairly important. Further to that, he had a real fade out in form towards the end of last year. It even got to a point where there was vision of him not chasing for players in defence. Does not chasing for players count as underperforming? Yeah, I think it does. So, and he didn't show good form towards the back end of the year last year, and that was a big reason why they went from being on top after 11 rounds to missing the top 8. So I think Anthony Mundine's got a point. He has been underperforming. That having been said, I don't agree, and you've been lucky to have Cody by your side to hold your hand. No. He doesn't need anyone to hold his hand. He's their best weapon in attack. But he has been... I think his problem is he doesn't need anyone to hold his hand in attack at all. His problem is his inconsistency. He gets distracted too easily. He's too obsessed with social media, and he doesn't focus enough on the job at hand. But he is an outrageously brilliant attacking player, and I don't agree that he needs anybody to hold his hand. Those are my 2 points to make on Mundine's comment.
I completely agree with everything you just said. Latrell Mitchell doesn't need anyone. He's the guy that everyone needs. It's the other way around. He supports everyone and makes them better.
That's the thing. He makes mistakes, but without him, they have nothing in attack.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, then Latrell Mitchell responded, but I don't think he responded directly to Anthony Mundine, right?
Yeah. I've got it down here. Yeah, so, and to be fair to him, I think he showed a lot of class in his response, Latrell. He says, and I quote, "The great, in brackets, racial debate will have to rest for now," Mitchell wrote on Instagram while being draped in an Aboriginal flag. He added, with regards to differing views, that it's important to take it on board, learn and move forward. I think that's a classy response from Latrell. I'll give him credit where it's due. Credit is due there. I think he needs to be a lot better on social media, and I think that's a good start there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So those two guys, if they want to be vocal and have differing opinions on this entire thing, it's fine. Those are two guys that are entitled to have their differing opinions, and they can battle it out in public, but if Latrell Mitchell battles it out in public with Anthony Mundine, he's actually proving Anthony Mundine right, that Latrell Mitchell needs to stop concentrating on it, and especially if his form slumps. It just proves everything right. He needs to get off the social media.
And of course, Anthony Mundine himself faced racism during his career. There was an incident in 1998 where former Bulldog Barry Ward made a racist comment towards him. I'm not going to read it out. I'm not going to read out what he said. Barry Ward was fined $10,000, which was reduced to $5,000 on appeal. And Mundine at the time said he was quite absolutely disgusted and suggested it may have contributed to his exit from Rugby League in 2000. So what I would say is that I think it shows how far we've come as a game on this issue. Barry Ward was, in the end, only fined $5,000 for making a terrible comment towards Mundine. So it just shows how far we've come. There's no way that Leniu obviously is going to get away with this with just a $5,000 fine. And I would add that Barry Ward's comment was worse than Leniu's.
Yeah.
I would say that absolutely. So it does show how far we've come as a game. That was 1998. In 26 years, we've come a long way, and Leniu's going to get a proper suspension here.
Yep.
But I will, I will say I do admire Anthony Mundine for being unafraid to be critical of Latrell. I think far too many people in the media are too scared of being critical of Latrell, and Anthony Mundine's come out and said what he thinks on this. And in that regard, I applaud Anthony Mundine. I agree with part of what he says about Latrell. I don't agree with all of it, though.
Yeah, there's one thing you got to love about Anthony Mundine. He's not afraid of anything.
No, he's... well, he gives you something to talk about. There's never a dull moment, and that's what we want in the media. We should point that out. Yeah, we should point out that we want robust discussion points, and Anthony Mundine provides those, and you've got to give him credit for that.
So, I really hope it ends. All everybody really wants for Latrell Mitchell is for him to concentrate on football and play really well. And then he can come to New South Wales, and I was watching highlights of Latrell Mitchell in New South Wales yesterday.
Pretty good highlights.
Yeah, they're so good. So that's all I really want. As you said, the judiciary will be tonight.
Yes, Monday night, recording Monday morning.
And then Spencer Leniu will get his suspension. I'm sure Anthony Mundine, Ezra Mam, Latrell Mitchell will all be approached for comment now. And I would hope that is the finish of it.
Yeah, so on Thursday we'll obviously talk about Leniu's suspension and then
what it means for the Roosters.
Hopefully we can put this behind us.
Yeah. So that's honestly, guys, it's just our opinion. We can move on to just finishing up with Rugby League news. The Tigers are still in a little bit of trouble. Their back of jersey sponsor has walked out on their $800,000 a year deal with the Tigers after being approached by interim CEO, actual CEO.
I think he's still the interim, Shane Richardson.
Shane Richardson, to have another sponsor. This sponsor's direct competitor also placed on the jersey.
The company's called FAB Industrial Logistics, and the managing director Neil Fabry has blown up about this. He's not happy. He said he sat down with Shane Richardson and he was told that they wanted to put one of his competitors on the jersey. So that competitor is
Was it Toll?
sorry, it's written down here somewhere. Yeah, sorry about that. I'll come back to that. But the quote from Fabry was that none of this happened when former CEO Justin Pascoe was here. So I'm not going along with that at all. No, they couldn't have kept Justin Pascoe. They had to move him on. So I'm not going along with that.
No.
I don't care how much money was in it. For their greater good, they had to move on from Justin Pascoe.
And so we all know the Tigers are going to lose Bryden's lawyers as well, because that's Lee Hadjipentalis's business. So the Tigers are moving forward into the future, and I mean, you should never have a conflict thing. That's completely unfair to any sponsor you already have. So the CEO guy, what's his name?
Neil Fabry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that other company, I should point out, was Allied Express. So that's the competing company with FAB Industrial Logistics.
Neil Fabry's quote is that he was told by Shane Richardson, if you love the club, you'd do this. And Shane Richardson's come out and said, I told him if he doesn't want to do it, then we won't do it. So now you have, this is one of the things with the Tigers, the infighting, man. Like, all that's supposed to end. And I don't know Neil Fabry from a bar of soap, and if I walked past him in the street, I wouldn't know. And I don't know the history of the sponsorship and how much money he's put in. But to be honest, if I was Shane Richardson, I'd be looking to cut ties with basically everything that made the Tigers what they were. Everything.
Yeah, it was an $800,000 sponsorship.
If you can find $800,000 elsewhere, honestly, I would be looking to cut ties, because the Tigers are and have been a basket case. And yeah, as you said, Justin Pascoe had to go. And
so they'll no longer be the Tigers' backup jersey or sleeve sponsor.
But Allied Express will. So.
Put it this way, who would you rather as your CEO? Shane Richardson, who took Souths to their only premiership in recent memory in 2014, or Justin Pascoe? I'm sorry, I'm choosing Shane Richardson every day of the week over Justin Pascoe.
I'd prefer 2 wooden spoons than a premiership. Is not words you would ever hear anyone say.
Yeah, there was too much of that. Too many people were defending Pascoe, saying, "Oh, but he does great things in the corporate space." No. It's all about on-field results. You can only imagine that the journalists defending Pascoe must have been very good to those journalists, giving them a lot of background information.
And the Tigers have historically been the club, one of those clubs that, like, inside sources say, everything was played out in the media. So, that sponsor should, if Shane Richardson said, if you don't want to do it, we won't do it, then that's it, move on. Don't worry about bringing up Justin Pascoe. Moving on. This is so funny.
I think we can, because we're running short on time, I think we can go very quickly through this one.
This one made me laugh. 97% of club bosses say teams are cheating in polls. So there's only 17 people you ask, right? 97% implies 16 out of 17.
Yes.
And I'd say the 17th is the Dolphins, because they don't know even if it was an anonymous poll, because they probably don't know how to cheat yet.
Yeah, it was a poll done in the Herald. Only 3% of NRL clubs believe rival teams aren't facilitating illegal third-party deals for players.
That means they all are.
Yeah, I mean, there's no surprise. This sort of thing goes on all the time. Clubs try their best to get away with what they can get away with, and they can get away with a lot. Peter V'landys has called on people to be whistleblowers and call this out, because they're so reliant on people being whistleblowers. It's the only way you can find out about this sort of thing.
In combat sports, everyone is on steroids except my favourite fighters and my teammates. But I'm 100% certain every single person is on other person on steroids. Mm-hmm. You know why I'm 100% certain of that? If I was actually an MMA fighter, it's because we're all on steroids. That's why. Okay. And this is the same. These guys are saying 100% of all the other clubs are cheating, except for my club. You know how I know? Because I'm cheating. That's if they are, and if they're saying that, this goes back to Brian Waldron being on the Footy Show and saying, I reckon every club is cheating, and you should give them an amnesty to come forward and admit and clean everything up. Why did he say that? Because he was cheating. That's actually kind of worrying. How long until the next scandal comes? Please don't be the Dragons.
It's probably only going to come if I guess if they cross if a club crosses the wrong person, if they cross a person who knows too much. That's the only way these examples of salary cap cheating come to light, is someone who knows too much having their nose put out of joint and then being a whistleblower.
Exactly. So we'll just keep counting the days until the next salary cap issue. On to NRL in Vegas, which was only more than a week ago now. Our best friend Peter Fitzsimmons has whined about it.
Yeah, he's had another go at the NRL. He said the success of the Las Vegas matches will be judged in 5 years, but year one shows it won't be achieved easily. Yet again, another example of Peter Fitzsimmons just laying the boot into the NRL. Again, for the life of me, I don't understand why Channel 9, who are now owners of the Herald, would want somebody who continually trashes their product writing columns in their newspaper. Baffling to me. If I was the CEO of Channel 9, one of the first things I'd be doing would be calling him in and going, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep trashing our product? We need a columnist who is not going to trash our product. See you later.
It's really bizarre.
And you got to remember, Peter Fitzsimmons, he's been very critical of these live golfers. He was critical of Cam Smith for signing with Live Golf. But yet he was called out after that as he... I think he appeared in an advertising campaign for the food delivery app Uber Eats, which Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is a major investor in. So it's okay for him to appear in Uber Eats ads, but it's not okay for Cam Smith to join the Live Golf.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's Fitzsimmons for you.
They all do that, man. They just... Because continuing with NRL in Vegas, they're still talking about the numbers, the 61,000, 44,000. So a leading television analyst has cast doubt over the NRL's ability, I can't speak English, NRL's ability to cut through to an American audience. This is going on. Everybody is saying this. We've had YouTube comments and things like that about exactly the same thing. I even got sent a link by a rando trying to prove me wrong. Look, you keep saying it has nothing to do with the American audience.
It was, Steve Allen, Director of Strategy and Research at Pearman Media, said, and I quote, "It is and will be a long road. US sports is a very crowded market, and that audience is practically an asterisk in US sport telecasting, so it's extremely disappointing." He says, even with the relationship the NRL has through News Corp and Fox Sports, you would have to question any substantial ongoing involvement for NRL telecasting, even with News' historic involvement in Rugby League. I do not know if Fox Sports 1 have agreed to any regular telecasting of NRL season 2024. He's talking about Fox Sports 1 in America. But to me, this is the only hope to educate and excite US sports audiences. However, it would require solid on-air backing and promotion. My estimate remains that on these US telecast figures, there is nothing in it for Fox. He did go on to acknowledge what you were talking about the other day, though, saying that, this is really about gambling. Yeah,
I was at a 18th and 21st birthday party yesterday with one of my old friends, and we were talking about this, and he was like, it's not about the TV ratings, it's about this. Drunk dudes at 2 a.m. in Vegas at a casino drinking, and some weird NRL game is playing on the Fox 3 over there on a television. Because like you said last week, they're trying to get one game played per week. And they're going to be sitting there going, look at this Rugby League. Well, what's a try? Oh, look, there's a market for next try. Let's put $20 on next try. And that's how they make money. So, it's irrelevant. I don't care if they only... And like I said, Jake Paul only gets 61,000 pay-per-views worldwide. The fact that NRL got 61,000. There's a Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury got less than 65,000 pay-per-views worldwide. So who cares?
It was bizarre, as I said, it was bizarre spin from Abdo, though, saying, these are the 2 most watched NRL games in the US on record.
Really?
Oh, really? Wow. That's a great...
Amazing.
That's sensational, considering, they're the first 2 games played in America. I don't think that's any great surprise.
That's NRL for the week. Game previews will come up on Thursday. We have a full proper round this week. Let's hope the Dragons can continue their push. They're currently sitting second, and maybe the Bulldogs can turn it around for us. But for everyone else, don't care. Just a AFL update. So on the expert tips, Bryce's tip did not come off, unfortunately. Only Julie tipped the Greater Western Giants. So, I got 3 from 4 in my tipping competition. So Swans beat the Demons 86-64. Carlton beat the Lions 86-85. The Suns beat Richmond 99-60, and GWS beat the Magpies premiership winners 4-1-14-82. I saw the funniest thing about this is the Suns and the Giants currently lead the ladder in the AFL.
Amazing.
Two newest clubs.
So Damien Hardwick already having an impact at the Suns there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it for AFL. We'll give you another tip this week from Bryce, and hopefully that can come off. In combat sports news, UFC 299 was yesterday. It was a banger of a card. Absolutely amazing. Peter Yan managed to break his 3-match winning streak against Song Yadong. I tipped that. I actually tipped 5 from 5. Boom.
Well done.
Jack Della Maddalena was kind of getting dominated on the ground by BJJ expert Gilbert Burns, and then got off this amazing knee to the head and ended up winning. Michael Venom Page won his debut via decision. Dustin Poirier knocked the crap out of Ben Saint-Denis. Dustin Poirier was the underdog, and I kept saying to everyone, don't doubt Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier has only lost to champions. This is some 11th ranked fighter that, although he's on a good winning streak, Dustin Poirier is going to bash him, and he bashed him. And then Sean O'Malley ended up retaining his championship belt against Marlon Vera, but didn't knock him out. Marlon Vera has the toughest chin I've ever seen in my life.
Was it a good fight?
It was really, really good. It was a masterclass. Sean O'Malley dominated from the very beginning, and it was everything about it was like, if you like striking, you watch that. It was absolutely a masterclass. 5 from 5 for me, 3 from 5 for Jake. Now I'm leading the ongoing competition by 1 point. So,
nice one. You're on a roll.
Yep.
Dragons winning.
My 5 from 5. In other news, it was announced that Mike Tyson, 67-year-old, 57-year-old Mike Tyson.
57.
Is going to fight Jake Paul.
Just after we spoke about how Jake Paul fights either has-beens or Uber drivers.
Yeah, he's going to fight Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson still looks slick for a 60-year-old man. And Jake Paul, who is 27, is going to go fight a 57-year-old man. 30-year difference.
Yeah, I did watch that fight Tyson had with Roy Jones Jr. in 2020. It didn't look too crash on, I've got to be honest. Yeah. So if that was happening in 2020, you add another 4 years onto Mike Tyson. I don't know what this fight's going to look like.
So because everybody shows Mike Tyson hitting the pads, and he looks really slick and fast and everything like that. But George St. Pierre said it best. Everyone's a world champion on the pads. What kind of person...
That's a good line.
What kind of 27-year-old wants to knock out a 57-year-old? Honestly. So there's all these rumors about stupid rules and stuff like that. Like maybe it'll be a Jake Paul, Logan Paul tag team.
It doesn't reflect well on Jake Paul at all.
It's so stupid. But I'm already organising a watch party.
So I think that's July on Netflix.
Yes, on Netflix. Meanwhile, yesterday at UFC 299, yes, Donald Trump attended again, and it was to support Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, right.
Then he brought Ivanka with him.
Yeah, Ivanka was there. They haven't really been seen in public much. Ivanka's taking no part in his presidential campaign. So, yeah, they were with Dana White as well.
Yeah, the crowd was crazy. Like, it drowned out the commentators.
He's got a lot of support at the UFC.
Yeah, 100%. That's UFC 299. UFC 300 is next month, and we'll have Jake on. The undercards are amazing as well, so we're going to do a full preview of that card, dedicate one whole episode to it, and we'll also be tipping the undercards because you just can't not. In other spots, Why can't I speak today? In other sports, Craig Foster has taken an extraordinary backflip on Sam Kerr issue. So, as we discussed, Sam Kerr has been charged a year after. She apparently called a policeman a stupid white bastard, and then she's saying she never said white.
Yeah, or she's saying, I think her legal team want to argue that she said the phrase, and I quote, "stupid white cop" instead of "stupid white."
Oh, is it? She didn't say bastard. Yeah, that's the word that they should cut out.
Her legal team are going to argue, reportedly. So yeah, apparently, according to Craig Foster, well, he's actually apologised to her. According to him, it doesn't count as a racist comment if it's directed towards white people. That's what Craig Foster said. So Sam Kerr's done pretty well out of this, hasn't she? She got a character reference from the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, essentially, what he said. I'd class that as a character reference. And he's also had an apology out of... She has also had an apology out of Craig Foster. But what I'd say in response to what Craig Foster said is, even if you don't think it's racist, she's still spoken to this police officer in a derogatory way.
Yeah.
So that's fine to just speak that way about a police officer. Even if you don't think it's racist, that's no way to talk about somebody in authority. Well, so she said this, allegedly, and had the Prime Minister and a vocal person in this space, Craig Foster, come out and apologise to her. And Albanese gave her a character reference.
And the entire internet is like fully supporting her and stuff like that. If it was anyone else abusing a police officer, everyone would be blowing up. Because it's Sam Kerr, it's fine, which is beyond ridiculous to me. I reckon it'll get thrown out and stuff like that based on all of the media attention. Which is
probably. It was just. I'm sorry that that I was critical of you for making a racist comment, even though I now don't think it's racist, even though it was an offensive comment and a derogatory comment. Oh, but that's fine. You weren't racist, so yeah. So that's fine. Yeah.
On to just a quick cricket update. We put it here because we thought maybe the match would be over, but Australia still needs 172 runs to win. They are currently 5 for 107.
Yeah, so we might touch on that more on Thursday when it'll be wrapped up.
Yeah, 5 for 107, 172 to win. Meanwhile, England got smashed. Bazball is a failure. They tried, they failed. They need to start again. They got fully smashed so bad. And so that means they've lost the whole series 4-1. Suck it.
A resounding win for India.
Yep. On to social media blower-uppers. And because we are getting way too many comments now, we are going to just pick the best ones. Because some of them are obviously stupid. There's a really weird one on there where it's talking about like 4 + 2 = 6. 6 is the mark of Satan something. I'm like, okay. On the media coverage in Vegas, Simon Young 9388 said, everything you said for league to do is exactly what rugby have done in America. They have the MLR, Major League Rugby competition. The Rugby Sevens play in the US and Canada every year. And the Men's Rugby World Cup is being played there in 2031 and the Women's World Cup in 2034. So basically, we were saying you said they should start investing money in putting together a competition there. And so that's apparently what rugby's done. I was looking it up this morning, is quite popular in America. It's like the 12th most popular sport, but out of the hundreds of sports that they have on television, that's pretty good.
I would have thought that you'd get more traction out of doing that than expecting Americans to follow teams from Sydney and Brisbane. I just don't think that's going to happen.
It seems like if you do go that way, it's like you're trying to be the EPL, the English Premier League. People have their A-League team, whatever, in Australia, but every soccer fan follows the EPL. And they still have to have the domestic competition to...
Yeah. It's just hard, isn't it? Because, if you or I sit down and watch a game of NFL and then a game of rugby league, Of course, we're going to think the game of rugby league is better, but Americans, of course, they're going to think differently.
Yeah.
They've had a different upbringing. They've been brought up with American football. That they look at the games differently to how we look at it. That's just the reality.
I was listening to James Graham, and I can't remember who it was, on the radio on the weekend, and they were talking about exactly that, the way you brought up. And James Graham was saying where he was from, wherever it was, they had no rugby league. You know, they had none. He was actually the only person in his school that played rugby league, and it all came from his dad. And then whoever he was talking on the radio to, I cannot remember. It's so bad. It's one of those guys on the Dead Set Legends or whatever on the weekend, was saying he never followed rugby league until he moved to New South Wales. And then because it's so ingrained in the DNA of New South Wales, he had no choice but to get in. There's zero rugby league in America. Oh, well, there's 4 teams in Utah or whatever. So they need to... Yeah.
Yeah, but we watch a game of NFL, we go, well, how boring is this? Turn it off. But they don't view it that way. They've been brought up on it. They love it. They don't look at it like that.
Yeah, I don't have 7 hours to watch 5 minutes, 1 quarter. Touchstar 68 on the same one. You only have to look at the popularity of Spring American Football League to understand they're not interested in anything which isn't the pinnacle of their sport. NRL has one more chance of this. If the crowd numbers and TV ratings don't improve, it'll be the last time. Warriors, Storm, Panthers or Eels, and a Queenslander team will be selected. I don't see why they would pick those teams. These teams that you've mentioned. I also don't agree that they only have one more chance of this.
Well, as we pointed out, it's a 5-year deal. We're only 1 year into a 5-year deal. And as you mentioned on the last podcast, this is not about what a lot of people seem to think it's about. It's about getting on the gambling sites in America. It's not about getting a big slice of the pie. They know that they're not going to do that. It's about getting on the gambling websites, getting that gambling revenue coming into the game to help the game here. To say that's one last chance, it's a 5-year contract. Yeah. They're not just going to go one more time and then abandon the rest of the contract.
I would guarantee you that the contract has cancellation clauses in it, so it'll probably cost more to cancel than it does to go. So that's not going to happen. And it was a resounding success in Australia. People also, I've actually heard this on the radio on the weekend too. It was a resounding success in Australia. They had their best ratings ever for an opening.
The 2 most watched games on Fox. In Australia.
Yeah, in Australia.
Yes.
Yeah. Who cares about it in America?
And in America, but no one cares about that. Yeah.
So, even doing it again, right? Doing it again improves the watching and everything in Australia. So there is actually no reason. It was a success over in America because it had 40,000 people and that's all they needed. And it was a success for an opening round in Australia. So there is actually no reason. People keep using these TV numbers as a reason, like you've only got one more chance because he only had 66,000 people in America. What's the first game? 61,000? Mate, Jake Paul's one of the most recognisable people in the world and only gets 61,000 people.
They're just doing what they have to do to get on the gambling websites.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all this is about.
And the other thing I really don't agree with is just the statement of these are the teams that will be selected. You don't know that.
No.
Nobody knows that. And literally nobody knows, and we all want to know.
Hopefully they announce it soon. So you said you were going to go.
Yeah, I'm going.
Hopefully they announce it so you can, make your travel plans.
On the discussion with actually Craig Gower, that keeps going, on the AFL that you guys had. Damon Linerick 9254 said, I find the whole game of AFL boring, but you have to admire they're everywhere in Australia. I really hope the NRL gets to that point and stops trying to go to Vegas every year, maybe focuses on Australia and maybe New Zealand and some of the surrounding islands.
Okay, so people say that a lot about the AFL. They got the whole country. Well, they don't really have New South Wales or Queensland. I mean, they've got just because you've got teams in states, I don't think it means that you have the whole country. Yeah. New South Wales and Queensland are 2 of the 3 biggest markets in Australia, and Rugby League has both of them. Yes, the AFL has more of a presence in Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, obviously, and soon to be Tasmania. But half the country live in 2 states, New South Wales and Queensland. The NRL's got 2 of the 3. People keep saying the AFL has the whole country. They don't have New South Wales or Queensland.
They're in.
Just because they've got teams in those states, it doesn't mean they have the whole country.
They're in New South Wales and Queensland.
They do have the rest of the country, I'll give them that. But New South Wales and Queensland are big states.
Yeah, exactly. They're in New South Wales and Queensland. They don't
I will concede the NRL is not in WA, is not in South Australia, is in Victoria, but not prominently, and is not in Tasmania, of course. But you know, the markets are much smaller in Perth, Adelaide, Hobart. You know.
Well, I also heard on the radio this weekend because of my mate Big Chris telling me his son's birthday party was on Saturday, and I drove all the way to Mascot, and I'm calling him, and he wasn't there, and then he was actually answering his phone. I'm like, where the fuck is your party? I've driven like an hour to Mascot. Called me half an hour later and said, it's tomorrow. He gave me the wrong details. So I had a lot of time to listen to the radio on the weekend because I had nothing to do for 4 hours. I also heard that I think it was 13 out of the 17 club bosses believe WA should be the next expansion, and it should be the Bears who move to WA instead of the Islands.
They've tried WA, it didn't work. Wouldn't it be better to go a Pacific Islands team or a second New Zealand team?
Well, yeah, I just think they should start working on the National Rugby League and make it the International Rugby League. But yeah, clubs want the Bears in, and they also want more Australian presence. I think because the clubs are thinking more along that lines of like being in more states that the AFL is in, as opposed to going into markets that nobody is in. But the Rugby League, I believe, I don't run Rugby League. I believe Rugby League should concentrate on areas where they can have an immediate, strong impact. You go dump a team in Papua New Guinea with a proper stadium, you're going to have an immediate impact, big crowds, big ratings, everything. There's a lot of Pacific Island people who live in Australia who are going to watch those games, and so straight away increase the ratings. You drop a team in Western Australia, Western Australians are going to watch it, which, as you said, there's not many of them. So, yeah, I think that's not the right path.
They've been there, done that with Adelaide and Perth, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
I don't see why it would work this time.
And on the worst refereeing, honestly, guys, just our opinion, was the World Cup Challenge the worst officiating you'd ever seen? Rugby League history, which is I think it's another podcast, commented, there were some bad calls, but Penrith had a few chances to win the match. Cleary bombed a certain try and Field pulled off a try save run May about 10 minutes out from the end.
That's true. They didn't play well, Penrith. They had opportunities. They were very clunky. They made a lot of mistakes. But we had to point out that officiating. That was atrocious officiating.
Two ways that Penrith could have won. They could have won, like, by overcoming these issues that Rugby League history is talking about, or they could have won by not having such bad refereeing calls go against them 3 times.
Again, you can say both things. You can say, Penrith missed some opportunities and it was the worst officiating you've ever seen.
If they had have not bombed those opportunities and the referee hadn't have been bad, they would have won by a lot. If they had not bombed those opportunities, they would have won. And if the refereeing hadn't been so bad, they would have won. You know, so yeah. I actually talked to Craig Gower about it, and he was agreeing, because I met him last week, he was agreeing a lot with what we were talking about as well. Like, he brought it up about how, like, things like, it's not fair, you know, the Super League's already started. Wigan's already had warm-ups. Panthers didn't even bother playing a warm-up game. In the past, some of the other clubs that have gone there and been successful have played warm-up games. And so if Panthers go on to win 4, that's the kind of thing they should think about it, like, they should go there, they should play a warm-up game, they should get ready, acclimatise, go earlier and all that kind of stuff to combat the fact that the Super League team has massive advantages. Get used to the tiny little in goals. tiny little in goals.
They were tiny in Vegas too.
Yeah, they were. The field was also thinner in Vegas by a good 2 meters or something like that. So, yeah. That's it for our social media blower-uppers. I thought I picked 5 comments, but it was only 4. So we're going to pick the best 5 comments because there was 37 comments or something like that.
I think that's a good idea. We'll just do the best 5 each. Pod.
And we won't bother addressing the idiots unless they're only idiots. We were going to announce the tipping competition winners, but I have to go confirm who they actually were. So the weekly tipping competition winners, as I said, Mitch Lucas, congratulations, mate, won $100 last week. The other winners for AFL and NRL will be announced this afternoon or tomorrow. It's not too late to sign up. You can still sign up and win your weeklies. hell, with the way the tips are going, you can sign up into round 2 and still win the whole 10 grand.
My fortunes turn around.
Oh, man. We got these like posts that we do with our experts. But the guys who are sitting on top of the ladder and stuff like that in the NRL, to be honest, they've only scored like 3 points over the past 2 weeks as well. No one's tipping perfect rounds. Last in our round 0, a few people tipped both, but this round people have tipped like they only have to tip like 2 right, and you're on top of the ladder. Like no one's getting it.
Long way to go. Hopefully it turns around.
Yeah, hopefully. Don't forget to sign up to SmartB for the tip of the day. Set up your notifications for the Sports Smart book and the Black Book to get reminders of when your team is playing, especially during the seasons. When your team is playing, you get reminders of when their fixtures are and stuff like that they're playing today, the time and things. There is going to be some development done in that to get you push notifications about your team. So, like the other day, Cameron Munster, I left here tipping the Storm. If I had got a push notification that said Cameron Munster's been dropped, I would have changed to the Panthers. I would have been wrong. And I did change to the Panthers in some tipping comps anyway. But I stuck with my guns with the expert tips that we published. Stuck with the Storm. So thank God I got one right, one wrong. But, if I had to get a notification that says Cameron Munster is out, I wouldn't mind to change my tips. And the Subversion competition will be drawn, I believe, next week for 2 tickets to Subversion, biggest Subversion event in the world. We had a mix-up with the racing update last week. Just take my word for it. They picked a whole bunch of winners. The file didn't come. It didn't come through email, or we didn't get the notification in time to post it. But they actually picked a bunch of winners, so it was kind of annoying. But we're sorting that out for this week. And don't forget to follow.
Sounds like they're in good form.
They are. Bryce and Lewis going hard. As I said, hopefully Bryce tipped 3 out of 4 for the AFL as well. And it's just the one that he said to bet on. Bet with your head not over it. For free and confidential report, call whatever it is and go to gamblinghelponline.org. The one he said was a good bet was the Pies, because they were paying $2.30. So, it was a good bet. The premiership winning team playing the Giants.
They were right off in that game.
Yeah, and they got dominated. But yeah, that's actually the definition of a good bet. Man, they're paying $2.30. Pies could actually pull this off. Unfortunately, they didn't, but, we'll keep you updated with more. So you can get those in your notifications as well if you sign up for SmartB. And then follow at SmartB app on social medias to keep up to date with all your news and information. And we will see everyone on Thursday for game previews. Yeah, that's Thursday, right?
Thanks, mate. We'll have the outcome of the Leniu hearing as well for you.
Oh, yeah, and also the outcome of this cricket match in which Australia still needs 172 to win.
Yeah, I think it got a bit delayed. There was some rain around this morning, so it's moving a bit more slowly than we anticipated.
Maybe they can win with the Duckworth-Lewis system. Or it'll be a draw. I don't know how that works. Nobody does. All right, see you all on Thursday. Thanks, Dan. And bye, producer John.
See you.